Ice-T always said the best way to hide things from a black person is put in the book because we don't read. All right? And listen, man, you get a chance, I don't care if it's a sports magazine, LeBron James, or your favorite artist or whatever, pick up a book, man. All right? Read. So today, I'd like to introduce, we got a couple of celebrities. This guy right here, he used to be with Fat Big Pun back in the day, Gilly DELGADO. All right? He used to be a part of the Terror Squad. He's also a part of Guns Down, Life Up, all right, at Lincoln Hospital. All right? Gilly and I go a long way, and his street credibility, all right? So if you have any problems with beefs, gang-related, all right, that's the guy to talk to. The next expert I got is Mr. ANTOINE CRAIGWELL, all right? He's our keynote speaker. Now, he's going to deal with mental health issues, all right? Today, when you think about mental health, you think about the people who walk the street acting ill, but sometimes it's more than that and it goes deeper than that, all right? So that's what he's here for, to talk to you about. I also have someone that him and I go way, way back, all right, street back in the day, and it's Ian, all right, the young man in the corner over here that's trying to hide himself. He really shocked the meeting I was in because he talked about, civil rights and slavery, all right, so, and he knows his history, so don't get it twisted. But I'd like to bring up our keynote speaker, Mr. ANTOINE CRAIGWELL.
Thank you, Hakeem. All right, so you guys can hear me?
Yes.
I don't need this, right? I don't need this.
No.
Do I need this? I do? Oh, man. Okay. So my name is Antoine Craigwell. And one of the things that when Hakeem and I talked about this conversation is that we need to be in a circle. Okay? Because a circle allows us to see each other and to be next to each other. So I'm talking about mental health for black men. I'm talking about mental health for black men. Now, the first thing I want us to do, how much time do I have?
How much time you got?
It's 1:45.
All right. Just go, right? All right. Each of you got a cell phone on you, right? Each of you got your cell phone? Take your phones out, please. Take your phones out. And I want you to do two things for me. One, I want you to type 988 in your contacts address book. 988. Put that in your contacts. In the name section on the page, on the contacts, just put mental health services. Okay? Put 988, first thing. Second thing, well, of course, you save it, right? Good. The second thing is put your phone on vibrate and silent. Okay? Now, what I'd like all of you to do is to stand. I'd like everybody put everything down and just stand. Drop your hands. And we're going to do an exercise. And this is an exercise that I will refer to continually during this presentation. Be quiet. Let's just be quiet. Let's listen to what's happening around us. What can we hear? Let's take a deep breath in and out. Like another deep breath in and out. Another deep breath in and out. And be quiet. Think about why we are here this morning. Think about what we hope to get out of being here today. Think about our school, our work, our families, our home. Just be quiet. All right? Thank you, and have a seat. So, the reason we did that exercise about breathing is those of you who really and truly took a deep breath, when you breathe in and you breathe out, how many of you felt your pores raise? Did anybody feel their pores raise? No? Your pores should have raised if you did it properly. Because you know why? Every time you take a deep breath in, you push oxygen into your lungs, you fill your lungs up. The oxygen goes massively straight instantly to your brain. And when the oxygen gets to your brain calms down. And the only way your brain can let your body know that it's calming down is your pores will raise. So if your pores weren't raising when you were taking the deep breath, then you weren't doing it well enough. But I want to suggest to you that when you take a deep breath, you calm yourself down. And use this before every interaction. Every time you're going to do something, every time you're going to say something, stop and take a deep breath. There's a reason why we count 1 to 10, right? Because when you count 1 to 10, how many breaths can you take in that time to calm yourself down? Now, excuse me? Now, here's the thing. We've got a spectrum of ages in this circle right now. Okay? Who's the youngest? Who's the youngest? Really now?
I'm joking.
Who's the youngest?
It might be the coach right here.
Yeah?
It might be the coach. The coach might be the youngest.
25. I'm 25.
You're 25?
Yeah, 25 years old.
Oh, you're old.
He's a baby.
Yeah. Who's the youngest?
That has to be Kevin. 13.
You're the youngest. 14. How old are you? 14. So, okay, so y'all are the young. Who's the oldest?
73 should be 74 in 4 days.
Good. Congratulations. Congratulations. And we know that HAKIEM celebrated his birthday yesterday. So happy belated birthday. All right. So same generation over here.
Until 120, they should be good years.
Yeah. All right. So we're not going to have a conversation about my age. All right. Just leave that alone. But there's a reason why we are gathered here in this age spread. Okay? Because there are similarities and there are differences. We're talking about mental health today. We're talking about, as HAKIEM was saying as in part of his introduction, that we are accustomed to seeing when we hear about mental health is somebody who looks crazy, right? But what about those people who are struggling with mental health issues that you don't see? How many in this room right now are struggling with mental health issues? How many people sitting right among us got mental health issues? And does it make you any less of a person Or does it make you any less of a man to have mental health issues? It doesn't. Because here's the thing. As long as humans have walked the face of the earth, we've always struggled with mental illness. And since the majority of you are black, let us understand something. Your history did not begin with 1619. Your history as a black person began millennia ago, 5,000 to 10,000 years and more. And consider that as a black person originating in the African continent, your ancestors trial and error, experimented, refined methods of taking care of themselves and taking care of each other. 1619 was just one blip in African history. 1619 was just yesterday in terms of African history. Before the Arabs invaded, excuse me.
He's translating.
Oh, you're translating? Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. I didn't know that, thank you. Before the Arabs invaded the east coast of Africa and occupied the entire east coast, Uganda, Kenya, all the way up to Egypt, it was black people who ran that entire continent. Let me give you a couple of names, and I know you got your phones, and I said only 2 things, but I'm going to give you a couple of names, because usually when I speak, people start writing, because I'm just throwing stuff out. Look up the work of Ivan van Sertima. They came before Columbus. Okay? Look up the work of Sheikh Anta Diop. Look up the work of Ben Jokanan. Look up the work of Frantz Fanon. These are all black scholars who have explored and discovered black history. Look up the work of Frances Cress Welsing, the ISIS Papers, where she talks about mental illness and mental health for black people. Look up the work of Dr. Joy DeGruy, who talks about the post-traumatic slave syndrome. Okay? All right. Hakeem brought me in here today to talk about mental health. And I must say to you all that your mental health is just 1% in your brain. Okay? Because your mental health depends on everyone around you. You are 14 years old. What are some of the factors and the things that are affecting your mental health today? You're 25. What are some of the factors and the things that are impacting your mental health today? You're 73, going on 74. No, you don't have that option. But what are some of the factors that are impacting you today, but may have been with you all of your life that remained unresolved? So, let me just throw a couple of numbers at you. Men are 4 times more likely to take their lives than women. Women are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than men. Okay? The age groups around which men take their lives predominantly is between 15 to 25 and between 55 and 85. Okay? You'll get a couple of men in between 30s and 40s and early 50s. Those are CDC numbers,
I'm sorry, what's the CDC?
the Centers for Disease Control. U.S. Centers for Disease Control. Thank you. But here's the thing, too. Our understanding of contemporary mental health is based on a white, European, and American model. Mental health was never designed for black people. Black people were used in experiments for white people, to treat white people. People who remember Creedmoor Psychiatric Facility, okay? People who would remember that back in the 1940s and 50s, black people were experimented on with medication and with electroshock therapy to see how to diagnose and treat white people. Hang on. Because understand this, up to today, 2023, there is no concrete understanding about how mental health looks differently in black people. There is no research into what does mental health look like in black people. Let me stop here for a minute and give you an example. I'm going to come back to you in a minute. Your name is Bernard, right? Ian, I'm sorry, Ian.
Sorry.
That's Bernard. When Ian experiences oxygen deprivation, he can't breathe. What color does Ian turn? Huh?
Purple.
Purple or blue, right? So all of our medical models suggest to us that when we're experiencing oxygen deprivation, we can't breathe, we turn blue. Well, would somebody please tell me what does Bernard color turn when he can't breathe? Can we see Bernard looking blue? What does Bernard look like? We don't know. You know why we don't know? Because we have not been taught and told that when Bernard can't breathe, Bernard goes gray. His complexion becomes gray or darker. What is your name? JD? What color would JD become if he can't breathe? You guys are on the basketball team. If JD was to encounter an experience where he can't breathe, how would you know that he's experiencing oxygen deprivation? Because you have been conditioned to think that he's going to get blue. Does he look like he could get blue? He would get gray. Or he may become dark and he would start to sweat profusely. Similarly, someone who's experiencing, a black person experiencing a mental health disorder or mental illness may not necessarily show up quite the same way that Ian would. So, how are some of the ways that mental illness show up in black people? Okay? Emotional. Sometimes we get stomach aches, right? Sometimes we get headaches, right? Sometimes we get lower back pain too, right? Who is that? All the time. Okay? Those are sometimes some of the ways that mental illness shows up in black people. Now, some of the characteristics for mental illness in white people, we can find in black people because some are the same across the board. How do we experience stress? How do we experience anxiety? How many of you right now sitting here are worried? How many of you are worried about something that you really cannot control? What are you worried about? Do you have any control of it? So if you have no control over it, then why are you worried? Do you guys follow me?
Yes.
I'm suggesting that very often we self-inflict our own mental illness on ourselves. We worry about shit that we should not have to. Okay? Yeah, you're all young men, right? And you're worrying about what somebody thinks about you. You're worrying about what you look. You're worried about what somebody... So you're worrying about what other people think about you. Have you considered yourself? Have you considered looking at yourself? As part of a team, you learn to build camaraderie. You learn to build a sense of team, a sense of belonging. Okay? You learn to rely on each other. But as you learn to build a team, you also learn about yourselves. You learn resilience. You learn how to bounce back. You learn that when you foul on the court, and you know coach is going to really come down hard on you, how to correct that so it doesn't happen again. Because those are lessons you take out into the world. Okay? But let's also stop for a minute to talk about something that is pervasive, that each of us carries with us, that we were born with, that continues to affect us today. And some of you older ones, some of you old heads, may or may not have come to terms with or accepted this in your lives. Some of you young ones may just beginning to realize or need to begin to explore. And I'm talking about trauma. I'm talking about trauma. I'm talking about things that you may not even be aware of that you were born with. Okay? Consider that I talked earlier about 1619 and enslavement and the traumas and the pains that came with that. Your ancestors learned how to adapt. They had to survive. But the pain and the trauma that they experienced was lodged in their DNA. And in the generations that followed, it was passed on, passed on, passed on. So consider this, that your grandmother, with your mother in her belly, had already passed on to your mother in the eggs in her fetus, you, and the traumas that your grandmother experienced. So you see how far back I went? Your grandmother, the traumas that she experienced as a young woman, the traumas that she also inherited from her grandmother, were present in you while you were in your mother as a fetus in her mother's belly. Anybody know what a Russian nesting doll is? Huh? Anybody know what a Russian nesting doll is? Okay, because what a Russian nesting doll is, one doll inside of another, inside of another, inside of another, until you get to a really tiny one, right? So consider that the traumas that you would have been carrying that are in you right now. Do you want to ask a question? Oh. That the traumas that you're carrying in you right now have been there since back when in your ancestors. How many of you, both young and old, have ever been to some place and you could swear to God you've been here before? Huh? Deja vu means what? Already seen. But you could swear to God you've never been there. And you ask your mother, have I ever been there? Did you ever take me? And your mother's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never been there. Consider this. Your ancestors perhaps were in that space. And their experience in that space got lodged in their DNA that was passed on all the way down to you. So that when you go into that place, the smell, the sound, the feel of the ground, the air, whatever, I've been here before. But I've never physically been here. I'm now here. Okay? That's a deja vu. That's an example of your ancestors being present in you. How many of you know how to cook? Really? Does that mean cooking for yourself or just cooking for other people? You can cook? That's good. But here's the thing. How do you know when you're cooking? Do you know when you're cooking and you taste the food or you smell the food and you figure that it needs a little bit of something more? Right? And you don't use a teaspoon to measure and say, well, a quarter teaspoon of this or a half a teaspoon of that. You just dip in the jar, you take out and you sprinkle, right? And you sprinkle. How do you know? First of all, how do you know what the food needs? How do you know how much to sprinkle? And if you sprinkle too much, you can almost hear a voice in your head say, child, listen, that's too much. Okay? Could you think for a minute that it could have been your ancestors in you saying to you, this is what that food needs, and this is how much it needs. Okay? So your ancestors are constantly speaking to you. You just have to pay attention. Okay? And so the ways we talk about how trauma shows up in us, in our bodies today, is in the stomach ache, is in the headache, is in the backache, is in the anger we feel. And I'm going to say this, because of the trauma that your ancestors experienced, as black men, we are all perpetually angry. We are pissed off. And because we do not have a mechanism or a way to express that anger, we turn it inwards and it starts to harm and affect us. It begins to affect our relationships. It begins to affect our health. It affects our mental health as well. Okay? So, the coach is 25 years old. He's running after somebody running on the sidelines at a game, and suddenly he collapses with a heart attack. Okay? What could have caused that? A number of things. Stress. He could have be experiencing long COVID. Okay? But he also could have been experiencing the effect of trauma in his body that he inherited from his ancestors, that he suppressed in him. Okay? So our mental health is not just in our brains. It's all the things around us that impact and affect our health. So let's talk about men. And like we said, we got a range here, right?
I know you got practice, right?
No, I stick to one. And I'll get mad at it.
So we got a range of men here, right? So at 14, you're just beginning to understand what an erection is, right? Okay? Hold on. Hold on. Do you guys realize you started laughing when I said that? You know why? Because we do not have conversations about our sexuality. Our sexuality is a very integral part of who we are. How many of you masturbate on a regular basis? Okay? You should be doing, hello, all right, hello, hello. You should be doing it at least once a day. And let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. One, it helps to flush out and keep your prostate healthy. Two, it lowers your blood pressure. Three, it releases serotonin into your brain. So when you come, when you climax, when that white stuff comes out, it releases serotonin in your brain. And your brain calms down.
I have a question.
Hang on. That is why, very often, after a man has had sex and he's had a climax, he falls right off to sleep.
Maybe sandwich.
Huh? Yeah. And your homework is yourself. Okay? Because when you do that, you're able to, one, also understand your body. You don't allow anyone else to determine your body for you. You understand your body. You know what turns you on, you know what turns you off. You know what gives you pleasure, what does not. Okay? All right, so your question, if you can still remember it, because that was a while ago. And then your question, and then we'll continue for a moment.
I just wanted to ask, if your age is 70 plus,
Yeah,
like I'm 73,
yeah.
I don't masturbate. So would that still affect my brains and whatever?
So then the question is, what other means do you use for self-care? Because for men, masturbation is a form of self-care. You're taking care of you. You're taking care of your own business, whether it's right hand or left hand or both hands. You're taking care of you. So what do you then do to take care of yourself? And here's the other thing. Some of us may not want to engage in masturbation. You know why? Because we may have been sexually abused. And so we don't think very much about our own bodies. 1 in 6 boys are sexually abused. But because of our society, we don't talk about it. We don't report it. Because our society tells us, and it wasn't until recently, that you can actually go and make a report to the police station about being sexually abused as a man. Our society tells us that we need to suck this up and keep this inside. Okay? We need to suck this up and keep this inside. Because if we do, then society will think less of us. Society will think us as less than men. Because the construct of what a man is expected to be is problematic. What is a man? Who is a man? What defines or determines who is a man? And at 14, you are growing into becoming men. And so one of the questions also for you as young people here is something that some of the older ones may have experienced, a rite of passage. And an older uncle or a cousin taking you to a brothel to experience your first prostitute is not a rite of passage as a 14-year-old. That's sexual abuse. an uncle or a cousin or your father taking you to a whorehouse to experience a prostitute, that is not a rite of passage. Go back and ask your uncles and your ancestors, what did your ancestors do for rites of passage? There was a preparation period. There was going off in isolation. They were learning different things, how to cook, how to hunt, how to farm, how to take care of themselves and each other. And then they came back to the community, ready to step into the role as men in that community. Also, and I'm going to say this quick, and some of you may disagree with me on this. Men learn their masculinity from women. It is your mothers who teach you how to be men. Just like your father teaches his daughter how to be a woman. Because your mother will mirror what the world sees and what her expectations are of her son to become a man. Okay? Hang on. Yes.
You're talking about the sexual abuse. We have to also remember that men get sexually abused by women.
Oh, no, I agree. I agree. So sexual abuse of men and boys is not just by other men and boys. It's also by women. So an older cousin who decides that she wants to touch you and fondle you and put your hand on her breasts or put her hand between her legs, that's sexual abuse. But here's the thing though. For many men, and most of American society, your men are circumcised. So which means you lack the sensitization on your penis on the head of your penis. So the slightest touch will get you aroused. And here's the thing that happens with sexual abuse of men and boys. When you are touched, and your mind might be saying, no, I don't want to do this. No, this is not me. I don't want this. But your body responds. You get an erection because you've been touched. And you now feel that your body has betrayed you. And so now you're angry with your own body. And so that every time you get an erection, you're upset. You're angry. Are you guys with me? Are you guys all with me? You had a question?
Yeah, I had a question a while ago. But first and foremost, I just want to say I appreciate everything that's going on here today. It's good to see a lot of black men of color around us today, so I appreciate that. And secondly, I guess my question was, with everything that you were saying about doctors and everything else in our history, as black people, as black men, do you think the experimental things that happen to us is what causes us as black men not to want to go to hospitals, not to want to get our checkups, not to want to be around because of the lack of trust that we had in our community from doctors? Do you think that's where it stems from? Why our numbers are so high of us not going to get that check, our cholesterol numbers, because we feel like that emasculates us as men. Is that the reason?
That is one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons. And I'm glad you asked that question, because that question then leads me into another discussion on how our physical health impacts our mental health. Because when we don't take care of our bodies, it impacts our mental health. I talked a little earlier about our ancestors. I talked a little earlier about intergenerational trauma and intergenerational issues. Our ancestors knew how to take care of themselves. But all of that was excised, was erased, was removed from them. And in its place was put a belief system that really did not do very much for them. Then along with the experimentation, because remember, along with the experimentation, remember that in the United States, black people are still not seen fully as human. It wasn't until February 2015, that the British government paid the final installment on the loan that they borrowed from Rothschild Bank to pay the plantation owners for the abolition of slavery. That means that between 1833 to 2015, the British government still saw black people as property and cargo. Are you guys with me? Therefore, because we don't see ourselves, because we have been conditioned not to think of ourselves, not to see our strengths, because we internalize the anger and the pain that we have been feeling for 450 years, that along with medicine and psychology, we don't trust those people. So we don't go to therapy. And if we were to go to the doctor, some of us older men, when was the last time any of you had a prostate exam? Oh, good. But some of us will not go for a prostate exam because they don't want no man sticking the finger in their butt. Okay? Because you feel, hold on, let's break down the biology here. Hang on. On your body are points where there are nerve endings. And your butt is one of those places where there are a significant concentration of nerve endings. If you go for a prostate exam and the doctor does a digital rectal exam, which he uses index finger, and he pushes it in, and he feels the prostate. If the prostate feels soft and spongy, you're good. If it starts to feel hard, he will then take it to the next step. But it is also possible that when the doctor does that, you'll get an erection. And it does not mean that because you get an erection, that you may like having things inserted in your butt. It does not mean that. It's just the way that your body is going to react. So you need to get a prostate exam. Not you, not so young. You wait until after you're 40. Yeah, what is the question? Go ahead.
You said that when they do that, like you get an erection, you said that don't mean that you like stuff in your butt, but like when you get an erection, doesn't that mean like whatever's happening to you, that your body is liking what's going on?
Your body is responding to the sensory action. It does not necessarily mean to say that your mind agrees with it. Okay?
Excuse me, doctor.
I'm not a doctor.
I'm sorry. Remind these young men, because we old enough to know that we get erections for all kinds of reasons.
Yes.
And some of them ain't nothing to do with sexual at all.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Because it is, back when we was playing football, awkward to tell in the shower. Ain't nothing but men.
Yeah.
But we all got wood, and we cracking on each other because of awkward
And here's-
of it. But it ain't nothing to do with nothing. Wake up in the morning, can't even pee till it goes down.
You know I'm telling you?
I'm telling you, you want to just go in the shower and say to hell with it. You know what I mean?
That shit used to get me angry. But here's the other thing too. The foods that you eat significantly impact your mental health. There is a direct relationship between gut bacteria and your brain. What you eat impacts your brain. If you're always eating processed fast food, artificial foods, your stomach and your intestines will consistently be inflamed, and that inflammation travels to the brain, and the brain, then you experience higher degrees of stress and anxiety, And if the anxiety remains unaddressed, it can descend into depression. So, yes, McDonald's and KFC and Burger King may be a quick fix when you're hungry, a belly full, but it should not be a regular occurrence. Now, in my case, when I was in college, I was eating. When I was in college, I was eating a slice of pizza and a cup and a tin of Coke every day because that's all I could afford. Okay? So now I really don't care for pizza. I don't like it. Okay? Yes, sir.
I just wanted to tell a real powerful story. My grandfather was a Harlem police officer. And at 17 years old, I went to a pediatrician. And at 18, he took me to his doctor. And I can remember this story so vividly because it's one of my stories. My grandfather raised me. Father, heroin addict. My grandfather drives me to his primary care physician, takes me in. I'm 18. Come home from college for my 18-year physical. And he said, yeah, do it to him, doc. And the doctor asked me to take my pants down and does a prostate exam on me. And like you were saying to them, you got to worry when you're 40. I was 18. I was furious with my grandfather. Furious. 18 years old. We drive up to the driveway in our house, and he says to me, because he feels the awkward silence in the car, and when I get to the driveway, he says, I see you don't want to talk to me, but I want to tell you why I did this. As a Harlem police officer, he said so many of the police officers that he came from World War II, especially the black officers, and even some of the white officers, were dying from prostate because they didn't want to get examinations. Because they were too macho to allow them to do a prostate exam. And all of them were dying of prostate cancer. So he said, at 18 years old, I want you to understand that that one 30-second exam could save your life at some point in your life.
Yep.
And now, I heard one of the brothers say, now they do it more through your blood. My annual physical, they make sure they do prostate through your blood to see if your levels, and if the
They
levels,
also,
they do the
yeah.
examination.
But they also still do the exam
They
too.
do, no.
Yeah.
Just like you said, if something in the levels are too high, they take it straight to the exam,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I want to say that one lesson taught me how important my health was. But at the time, at 18, I was so frustrated and angry with my grandfather because as a young man, you don't understand what's happening. You don't understand what that circumstance is, right? And I just want to say it's important that we understand our health, regardless of how we feel about examination at times. I think we do need to figure out medical professionals that we can trust, but understand that our health, whatever those examinations are at times, we need to trust that we need to know what our health conditions are to make sure that we live long lives.
Thank you. Thank you. And so the final thing that I wanted to talk with you about, I want to raise and discuss is, and I'm coming back to something that I began early in this presentation, is knowing your story. How many of you know your story? How many of you know your grandmother's story? How many of you know your grandfather's story? How many of you know of things that happened in your family years ago, and how does it affect you today? So you remember I talked consistently about intergenerational stuff? Knowing your story helps you understand who you are today. Earlier, I was having a conversation about substance use and addiction. Let us understand what are some of the roots of substance use and addiction. We know from historical record that the Aztecs used to put cocoa powder and cocoa leaves up in their butt as a way to get high, because the lining of the rectum is so thin that anything goes into the butt automatically goes straight into the bloodstream and to the brain. So the Aztecs knew very early on how to medicate themselves and take drugs. Some of us today still do that. But why is it that we would choose to use substances? Remember I talked about the internal anger that we carry? That anger, because we cannot find a way to express the anger, we internalize it, we think less of ourselves, and we try to escape. We try to leave. I don't belong here. I don't want to be here. Because if I stay here, I'm going to get so pissed off that I'm going to do something that I don't want to end up. Okay?
I try to tell my young men that I coach every day, like they so often now, like marijuana, it's like something that
It's legal.
It's legal now, and it's something that goes on. And sometimes I try to speak to my boys that because it's legal, that's not a way to cope all the time.
No.
Like the substance, and it becomes a substance as much.
Yes,
people,
yes.
especially young men of color, like it's something that you have to wake. Some of my kids had to wake up, smoke for them to have a good day at school. Wake up, smoke to eat. You know what I'm saying? For them to eat, they have to smoke. So it was certain things that I'm trying to get them to understand that substance abuse is a temporary fix
For a long-term problem, yes.
And sometimes when you have to stop that, you have to realize when you're not high or when you're not intoxicated, these are emotions that you have to process on your own. And I try to teach them that all the time because if you high, it's only temporary.
So here's the thing then. Do you have somebody that you can talk to about how you're feeling? Do you? Do you? You have somebody you can talk to about how you're feeling? Do you have somebody you can talk to about how you're feeling? Do you? Do you? See? Do you? Do you have somebody you can talk to about how you feel? Do you have somebody you can talk to about how you feel? Do you have somebody you can talk about how you feel? Okay? It is important that you identify someone that you can trust to talk with about how you feel. Because that will save you and prevent you from going the route of substances. Remember, you're 25. You're at the height of your sexual peak, but your prefrontal cortex has not been fully developed as yet. A man's prefrontal cortex does not develop until he is 40, when it achieves maturity. Okay? The front part of your brain, the thinking, emotional part of your brain, does not develop until you are 40. But you only got another 10 years because by 50, you start losing 1% of your testosterone in your blood every year. Okay? So you also have a shelf life. But your maturity level is not until you are 40. Right now, all of you, including you 25-year-old, all of you are still developing. You're in various stages of development, but you're still developing. And the question is, how do you harness your society, the community, your families, and your friends to help you with your development? That is why, again, I'm saying it is important that you find people to talk with about how you feel, what is going on in your life, what you're thinking about, what your dreams and hopes and aspirations are. Okay? And take a deep breath. Okay? Thank you. Why don't you raise your hand while it... Huh? It's up. Really now? Yeah. All right. 1, 2, 3. Anybody else? Okay. Hang on. That's all right. Yes.
Yeah, I have to get ready to leave, but I wanted to
seems to me that a crowd this large of brothers, we cannot leave without talking about the role that white supremacy has played in mental health. So Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Brother Malcolm, Brother Garvey talked about how this whole agenda to make us feel are nothing, have nothing, can be nothing, affects our health, affects our relationships, and everything else. So could you speak to how white supremacy affects our mental health?
Set a goal. Strive to meet your goal.
Goal.
Once you strive to meet your goal, when 10 toes down, 2 feet hit the ground, you set 2 more goals.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
There's always something to make you go, oh, shit.
I could have.
I know you thought about it.
So before we leave, and before you young men leave, we need to take a picture with everybody. All right, before everybody start running out. All right, and we have food here.
Okay. Quickly. Hang on.
I want to thank you as well for having the president.
Bernard?
I was one of the persons who was speaking with him earlier about substance abuse. I work as a substance abuse counselor. I was a drug abuser for many years. And I found solutions to my problem by meeting them head on. And it's very important that you do find someone that you can relate to and talk to. And I thank Allah for allowing me to become a Muslim and pointing to me as to become a Muslim, because it gave me a different outlook of life. You know, and through my high power, helped put me in the position that I'm in now. I always wanted to help people and give back. I was born and raised in Augusta, Georgia. I've seen a lot of things with my eyes. I'm 62 years old. I've seen a lot of alcohol abuse in my house. It wasn't all that liquor that they sell on the counter today. I'm talking about corn liquor. You know, I seen my relatives turn from beautiful with each other to angry at each other. And I always said I don't want to be like that. But when I came to New York, I seen a different thing. I seen people on the corner of 113th Street, Lenox Avenue, nodding. I used to ask my Uncle Bob, what is they doing? And he was a guy who was a heroin user. And he used to use the methadone back then to come in the orange bottle. I came to New York in '73 and I seen all these things. And I was like, I want to make a change. I've never seen homelessness in the South. Never. In Augusta, Georgia. Never in my life. Never seen nobody push a shopping cart or none of them things. But I just want to make a long story short. You must connect with someone. You know, a lot of us don't have no family members that we can connect to. But that's where the growing process starts, from the family. You know, I was close-knit with my family down south. We all sat at the table and ate. You don't come in at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock and eat. Everybody sat at that table at a specific time. So that's what kept the bond.
And when you come to the table, you put your phone to the side. You don't bring your phone to the side. You don't bring your phone to the table. So just coming back quickly to your question about addressing white supremacy. It's an enslavement. It's part of the whole process of enslavement. And as I said, I talked about earlier, that our language, our food, our culture, our music, our drumming, our dancing were all erased from us. It was excised and taken away from us, and Christianity was used as a tool to manipulate and control us. Okay? That is why, honestly, for me personally, I find it problematic that black people still run into the church. Because they are worshiping a relationship that was used to suppress and demonize. How many African peoples, how many African peoples were forbidden to drum? That drumming was seen as demonic, was seen as evil. So the consequence, it's a series of things. It's a long spectrum of things that have contributed to who we are today. And what I'm saying to you guys is to begin to think about turning away from that. I'm beginning to say to you, come into your own consciousness understand your history. And like I said at the beginning, a black man's history in the United States did not begin in 1619. Your history as a black person of the black race, of African, go back millennia, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 years, with a rich history. The white people, white supremacy is recent. The construct of race was developed by a Dutchman in the 1600s in the Netherlands as a way to separate people as part of the Dutch East India Company and the trading with Portugal and the Caribbean. Okay? All right. Yes, Ian.
Peace. First of all, thank you for sharing these words with us to build on. Just to have a right understanding, understanding a point can lead to many different perspectives. Everything is not for everybody. But if we're understanding our history, then we can look at our relationship to substances. And we can look at any tradition of law in our particular part of the community. And we can understand what is permitted to us and what is forbidden to us. And we understand that the government has used medicine as weapons, drugs as weapons. But I don't think that it offers a full perspective of mental health to say that this particular thing that was created is in and of itself devilish. It could be used for a devilish purpose to enslave people. But as long as we've been drumming and dancing to change our consciousness, we've also had a relationship to food and other plants that we've grown. So just to understand that to demonize something, isn't necessarily factually correct, and having that understanding of where these things fit into our history and how they've been used and are used today to enslave us, it's important.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? Speak now. Going once. Really? Okay.
We all say this here 1,000 times a day. Understanding, understanding, understanding. Do you know what that means? To be beneath what someone is speaking about. To understand, overstand is what we need to be thinking on. A higher terms of energy. All right? A frequency. When we elevate our minds to another frequency, we can build one another. And your sermons or your way of speaking to those, the masses, always remember that.
It's about language.
Yes, it is.
It's always about language.
Words are power.
All right. Huh? Thank you. Huh?
Anybody know what the hair braided is?
The who?
The hair braided. The hair braided that we wear today as for styles and only to...
There were messages. There were also means of identifying tribes.
These young brothers know, because they wear these hairstyles and don't even know what they're similar.
History, yeah, it's a good history. It's a rich history.
But our ancestors used hair braiding as a way to send messages to show maps, to show escape, to show their tribal belonging, but also to smuggle seeds.
Yes.
And so the black-eyed bean was brought from Africa in people's hair braids across the Atlantic. The okra was brought as seeds that women sewed in their hair and brought over here. Okay?
You gotta come back.
Yeah, we got to have him come back.
Yeah.
This is
Why?
Why did you left?
It's actually a tree shape.
Yeah, you gotta come back.
Okay, good.
So listen. I just want to, before we close out, before we run out.
No, I think we got 2 other speakers.
We got 2 other speakers? Yeah. All right, cool. Just give me 1 second before.
I know, right? I took up all your time, right?
Young people have practice. Let's clap it up for our FDA.
Thank you.
Really happy that y'all chose this space to have guest speakers come here to do this. This shows to me
Hey.
that
Use this, because he's recording.
it's extremely important to do this more often. I want to definitely, as a community and as a community school and as a beacon program, continue to open space to have this dialogue, because I love to have our more experienced brothers be here to talk to our younger brothers. Because we talk about topics that may be something that they don't experience, and it's good for them to hear it now. So when they get to 25, 30, 40, that they say, oh, I remember I learned that really when I was 15. Because we don't make those connections. I don't make a lot of connections till today. But the reason that I stopped everything real quick is they have this term, and it's not always the best, but I'm going to roll with it today, is they give people flowers. While they where? Well, say it. I was about to say, y'all finished. So give people their flowers while they're alive. While they're alive. And Brother HAKIEM has been an inspiration to me since I was a young teenager. And it's so interesting driving here today. Yeah, driving yesterday, it made me think about it because not only did he inspire me when I was young, I came to this campus in 2006 to bring my nephew so he could take him to the Boo Williams Classic in Hampton, Virginia to play on the Metro Hawks basketball team, and this is where they were practicing. He ended up getting a full scholarship to play at Fordham University, and it was HAKIEM. So from a teenager me to raising my nephew, getting a full scholarship, he taking him all over the country to play basketball, to now me and him partnering to help shape the lives of young people and young professionals here at this school community and others in this community. I just wanted to give him his flowers. So what I did was one of the elders, he talked about talking to people about flowers and talking about what flowers mean. And I talked to an elder talking about the power of some flowers. And I made a bouquet of some of the powerful flowers. The amaryllis was one of the ones that I thought about because it blooms in the winter. So in harsh times, this flower is blooming. The sunflower, talking about faith, because the sunflower is faithful to the sun. That gives all life, right? The peony, that's about loyalty and integrity. So I wanted to give him his flowers today. I made a bouquet of it, and then the other reason I gave it to him is because he could give them to his wife. So we talk about multi-purpose things, right? So I want to tell him, and I want to tell him in here, I tell him that, he made me pick them up to make sure that he gave it to, he could take them out in the hallway if necessary. But in here, we understand. That's about giving him his flowers. Yeah, overstand. I want to tell him how much I love him, how much I appreciate him. You see these brothers right here in these children's aid shirts. These young people are in the anti-gun violence employment program that come through Men, You Are Not Alone. So I want us to make sure that we understand that we're going to give this man his flowers, and then I'm going to allow for the other speakers. Here you go, brother. I love you. I know you don't like this, man, but I love you.
All right. Thank you. All right.
And these over here for your wife.
Hey, Gilly, you ready? So, as I said a little earlier, Gilly credibility, he does the gun violence. Back in the day, he was part of the terror squad. All right, I guess you guys know Fat Joe and him. But it's also, his idol was Big Pun. All right, because that's who we always talk about when I met him. All right, and then he also asked me, how many bars? How many bars? Yeah.
Good afternoon, man. First off, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to you, sir. I want to say thank you. That was very informative. Most times, we're always taking out our comfort zone, right? Just to see who we really are as men and how we build as men. So I want to thank him because we were all out of our comfort zone with that conversation today. But it was impactful, and it made a lot of sense for the future. Let me know when you're ready, young man. Let me know when you're ready for me. Right? Now it's all good, Coach. Listen, I love it. So anyway, my name is Gilly Delgado. I work for New York City Health and Hospital. Guns Down, Life Up is the name of my program. I track all gunshot, stab wounds, and assaults. So the same way the ambulance comes for the patient, the same way for the police sit at that crime scene, same way the doctor patch him up, I also have to respond to prevent retaliation. I'm gonna give y'all a brief history. Some in here know me. I was born and raised in the Bronx, New York, Fox Street. My playground was abandoned buildings. My playground was drug spots. My playground was guns. I loved it. I played with it. I had no problem with it because that was what was given to me. This future belonged to y'all. We ain't no different from y'all. We was once kids. Our playground was different. See all them OGs right there? They wouldn't let me play around what they ever did. Go to the store. Here's a quarter. Go play the machine. Get out of here. Go to the park. They never taught us what I grew up knowing. I figured it out on my own. You guys got a future. You guys are our future. That's why we in here. Because you guys are our future. Because what comes below y'all is the 8, the 12-year-old. Them dudes, you already know. They outside, you know. And I know I speak your language. One thing I'm going to show y'all is that warriors, we never die. Gladiators, warriors, we just keep it pushing. Some of us just got tired of the same old nonsense. But just for the record, I'm 53, but I play like a 23-year-old. All of y'all can easily be food to me. Y'all can all be food to me. He'll tell you. He know me. But I changed my life. You know why? 16, 19. All we doing is killing each other from those years to now. We're going extinct. And when he says black men, he means everybody. Even from the Caribbean, if your skin is light. We all black because the origin of life comes from Africa. It don't come from nowhere else. So once you have knowledge of self and you know yourself, you live a better life. Look around you, bro. These dudes ain't old. They older. That's the projectile. That's where you want to be. You want to be able to have a family. You want to be able to sit down. You want to be able to give to your offspring and break the generational curses that we've been going through for millions of years. He said 10,000. My religion tells me millions. I got family from Nigeria by way of Louisiana, and I got family in Puerto Rico. So when he talk about the Aztecs, I talk about the Taino. The Taino, thank you, sir. Right? Because that's who we are. Right? So all our islands were just holding cells for the British and for the Americans. But we were all holding cells, so we all had to congregate wherever we came from. I just want y'all to understand something, Dougs. This school system, what is it? I just said it. It's a system. Coach got a system. He got the playbook. That's his system. School is a system. It's the American way. It's the way of the world. Learn the system. You don't gotta like school. Learn the system. You can benefit from it either way. If you want to stay on welfare for the rest of your life or you want to make something about yourself, learn the system. Streets is not fun, and the streets don't love nobody. You could talk all that, you could see all that IG, you could be all the non-cap and all that. Bro, ain't nobody gonna come see you in the penitentiary. That 30-year-old dude is gonna give you that gun and say, yo, homie, you 14, you get a YO, you be out in 5 minutes. You don't need that guy. You need this guy. That's who you need. At 25 or whatever age he is, he stopped doing whatever he ever wanted to do what he loved to do. Is coach basketball and make real men out of y'all. You get it? Y'all got my card. Y'all got my card. Like he also said, does anybody have anybody to talk to? Well, I didn't. I had an abandoned building and I had a German Shepherd. I could do whatever I wanted, that German Shepherd, but he never turned on me. When I cried, he was over there to listen to me. But he got me mad. I told him, get the F away from me, but then I whistled and he come right back. because he's loyal. Love each other, bros. Learn from each other, build with each other. You got me? And my number is there. If you ever need somebody to call, bro, I'm there 24 hours on a dime. And I'm in these streets all day. HAKIEM will tell you, I stopped the kid from getting out of here. He was banging with the biggest blood nation in New York. And I told my little homie, yo, bro, he don't want no more. He said, yo, Gil, as long as he don't come back on this side of the street, he's good. Kid not a preacher? I save lives, bros. And I play with the life, too. Like I said, in my day, I didn't care if you was 1 on 101, you had to go, you got to go. I don't care, Doug. But I care now. You know why? Because I learned I was dancing cheek to cheek with the devil, but when I looked down, it was only my feet leading the dance. I led the dance. Honor yourselves. Honor your mother. She carried you 9 months. She buy you them Jordans. Any penny you get, you give her back some of it. Love your parent, if you have one. Love these men in here, because they take the time out just so you can have a reflection of what you may could be in your future. With that, I'm going to hold my breath. May the Lord always bless y'all. May the Lord always walk with y'all, and give yourselves a chance, all right?
I say one thing. It's not just black, it's different shades of brown. Look around this room, you may see a brother here darker than you, lighter than you. It's different shades of brown.
Listen, before they leave, we'll take a picture.